afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. Game week. Exciting times for Michigan fans as the season is just about ready to get started. You don't have to sit around counting it down anytime anymore. You don't have to have all this, although it's fun to do. It's all fun when it comes to Michigan football, but you can, I don't know what they say, you can taste it, you feel it. I think I can with both of those things. You know, if you love Michigan football, and you do, I was going to say it doesn't matter if you win or lose, but then, you know, I thought about that, and you know, it really does matter if you win or lose. I think about as a youngster being a Michigan fan, diving over the furniture with Brent Musburger, you know, saying you are looking live, and you know, you fired up is the word that comes to mind there, just ready for the action. But if Michigan would lose when I was young, it would be total despair, and it would be the worst of all feelings. And you wonder why you would put yourself through that kind of thing. And it just happened organically for me about just, you know, the watching college football and being a fan there. And you know, you get through the years and you say, well, it just hurts too much. But then the funny thing that happens, the more you do it, is that you realize you get not that week's still terrible, you know, if things don't go your way, but you know, you recalibrate, you start stacking some wins, and you kind of get back, you get your mojo back, you start feeling again, and that kind of thing happens. And I do think that over the years, half the fun is about the possibilities of an upcoming season. And with this season here, the possibilities where you're not fresh off a national championship, but you're pretty close. And what you see is that last year, as a learning experience, is that most of last season, the first 75% of last season was actually, you know, it was pretty bad. But the thing I take out of last season, that how you finish up, and you win a bowl game, and it makes you feel good. In that particular bowl game against Alabama, against their starters, and what looked like, you know, Michigan's backup, certainly on defense, they gave you a whole new outlook on Michigan's certainly their defense. And then, of course, the week before, another great reminder is you can have, you know, they always hear that, oh, they can lose all the games, but if they, you know, they just beat Ohio State, and you think, oh, come on, that's not really true. But man, beating Ohio State last year and then getting the springboard into the offseason, you know, it half felt like, you know, last year was, you know, some kind of championship season. I'm not kidding about that, you know, after everything that you went for. So those were the things that I learned about, I don't know, myself, Michigan football, those kind of things. Today, we are going to talk about making the playoffs for Michigan. If you think that they're going to make the playoffs, and look what it comes down to for making the postseason. Dave Portnoy in the news again with, you know, speaking of, you know, just, you know, the Ohio State rivalry and everything else, Portnoy right in the middle of all of that. And you know the story, but I'll give you my thoughts on that. We're going to start with the opener, which is coming up on Saturday night. Now, you can say, well, everything's perfect, everything's great, you know, heading, you know, to the start of the season. You know, it would have been perfect for me if it had been at noon. But, you know, having Ohio State and Texas at noon, playing later on, isn't all that bad. If you wanted, for me, if it would have been perfect, what would have been perfect would have been a 3:30 start, because you would have had, and especially if you're sitting at home, maybe go to the games, you know, you got to have it at the tailgate if you're going to be ready for that. But if you are sitting at home, if you could have had Ohio State, Texas, and then you had Michigan's opener, and then later on that night you had LSU at Clemson. Those three games, I mean, that's That's a lot of games to watch. 3 games in a row, 3 great games. Michigan right there, the meat of these top 25 battle sandwiches that you would be going at. That would be something else. As it is, it's not too shabby. And for me, thinking about how the weekend stacks up, Labor Day weekend, some of the best, it takes a backseat barely to the first 4 days of the NCAA tournament. But tomorrow night, getting Nebraska and Wisconsin both playing at 9:00, and that's going to be a lot of fun to get things going. And Friday night, we'll see what State will do against Western Michigan, that annual game. I think that's who they're playing. And then, you get to Saturday. The only thing for me, I got to remember to set that DVR for the Michigan game, but then also set it for LSU. There you go. So that's where I'm at, talking about the opener. So the particulars for the opener, if you're thinking about it, for season 146, you got Michigan and New Mexico, first ever meeting between these two teams. And I appreciate people that dive into the opponent. Oh, they've got so many new players. You look at the coaches and the connections. That's fun to talk about. I don't know. Michigan's a gigantic favorite. This is one of the things in the kickoff at 7:36. So if you're out there, thinking that you're going to have to go, 55 and a 45 to get home by 7:30. No, you don't. You could just take it easy and go the speed limit and arrive perfectly in time, with a 6-minute buffer before they kick it off at 7:36. And you got Eagle, Blackledge, and Tappan down on the sideline. Eagle and Blackledge with the call up in the booth. That sounds fine to me. It's one of those things for people. And again, I like people that, that if they love, grinding out, hey, what's the opponent got? What should I be looking for? To me, when it's a team like New Mexico, I kind of just shrug my shoulders a little bit at it when, you're almost a 40-point favorite and say, that's fine, to do that. But that's not really my cup of tea. Next week against Oklahoma, taking a look at what they bring, and that's going to be a lot more interesting. And that's where, again, my own personal preference, when you get a game like Michigan and Oklahoma, everything from all sides, everything is ratcheted up like 100 times compared to a game like New Mexico. And, but hey, if you can get cranked up for every single game and, fired up, let's dive into the opponent and see what they have, then, that's good for you. We all, you find out everyone is doing it different, even though, you got your game day traditions and how you like watching the games. I thought it was interesting today. There was just a simple post on the Maize and Blue Review on the Den. And the post was, what do you do or don't do? I forgot exactly how it was worded, that most other college football fans do. And this guy was saying he didn't like tailgating. Now, for me to hear somebody say they don't like tailgating, it's like, wow, you don't like tailgating? Now, there's somebody that doesn't drink, you say, and they say, you don't like being around a bunch of people that are drinking. Well, I get that. I could understand that part. 90% of the tailgates I go to, I'm not, drinking at all, but I still, I throwing the football around, waiting for the game, watching other games. If you could if you have all day long, Saturday, and there was somebody that said, I don't like night games against, lesser than opponents. All right, fair enough. I get that. The night game at Michigan, it's not so much, for me, if you look at what the day gives you on Saturday, and what it gives you is not 1 or 2 hours of tailgating. It gives you like 7, 8, 9 hours of tailgating. And if that's something that appeals to you, woo, I mean, you gotta, I don't know, pace yourself, of course, but then, just think about the different things. Are you just gonna, watch football games from the golf course for, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours before you get in there, going to mix some games in, some food and all that. Great problems to have, great things to think about as you go up to kickoff when you get there. Now, for me, the things that I'm looking for, I'll be interested to see what you folks have to say when it comes down to the opener. The number one thing is we're all going to agree it's going to be Underwood. We're looking at every single thing. Goes without saying. It's just like you want to see a win. That it goes without saying. You're looking at every single thing that you could possibly do. That goes without saying. After that, it's Underwood across the board. How much is it going to mean? Whether you feel like, oh, they're going to have a really good shot against Oklahoma. I think that anything that you would put down in a category of negative is going to make it not so much the positive stuff. If Underwood throws for, 400 yards and 4 touchdowns and he's 13 to 15, he's just perfect against New Mexico. I say, all right, well, let's see it against Oklahoma. And I'm going to agree with that. But, Michigan wins and then there's a little mixed bag there, a couple false starts, a little fumble, an interception or something. You say, whoo, it doesn't matter. Good thing it wasn't against Oklahoma. So, but it is exciting just to see the superstar recruit, to see if he's actually going to have a cape, draped behind him when he goes out there. There's others. You've got two, you think about being a 35-point favorite or whatever it is. You hear the name like Jasper Parker. Michigan is going to have a 1-2 punch at running back with Justice Hayes and Jordan Marshall. Maybe they both get 1,000 yards. Maybe Haynes catches a few more passes. Maybe Marshall rushes for a few more yards. Whatever you wanted to guess on that. If we had 20 people at 10, it said that Marshall was going to outrush Haynes and then vice versa, I would say, yeah, I'm going to pick Marshall myself. But hey, and I know that's just going to be my pick rather than saying, I just think both of them are going to get it 1,000 yards right on the button. I'm going to go with Marshall with more rushing yards, but that's it. But you behind those two guys, Jasper Parker's name has been mentioned, and so you're looking at a third running back. I'd be excited. I didn't, watch a little bit of his high school film. Want to see what he looks like in the maize and blue. Same thing with and Parker. We didn't see in the spring. Andrew Marshall we did, but it'll be nice because you're hearing a lot of good things about the true freshman as well. Same thing with Earls on the other side. We might have to get into the second half before we see Parker, Marsh, and Earls, but that's all right. That's what the second half is going to be for, hopefully, coming up on Saturday. And the other guy that I would put down there, just for me, is going to be Cole Sullivan. Cole Sullivan was a standout at the last 2 spring games, but every time Sharon Moore has been on record, has had a microphone. Every time that I've heard him, including this past Monday, including in Vegas at the Big Ten coaches meetings, including any other interview that he's done that people have, cited, and they say, hey, who's someone that you're really playing well, or is that a great offseason, that kind of thing. Who's going to shine this year that people aren't talking about? He says Cole Sullivan pretty fast. And usually first, and it said things like he is going to take the college football world by storm. So yeah, I'm going to be interested to see Cole Sullivan, how they use him, how fast he gets out there. Is he going to take the college football world by storm on Saturday night? So that is for me with the opener and what I am looking at now. I'm one person. You thousands that are watching this show now, I don't know, hundreds watching this live. What about you? What about you? Has you interested about Saturday night, if you could put it in a word or two or in a sentence or two? That's what I want to know from the people. Corey has a midweek feeling that this team is on a mission and we will definitely see how it goes on a mission. Sharon Moore said not only were they hungry, he said on Monday, but he said they are starving. So I think Moore agrees with you. Rashad's talking about 3:30 starts. We used to have those more often. Ironically, before Michigan Stadium had installed lights, now we barely get 3:30 starts either. It's either noon or night. Yeah, it just depends how old you are. Yeah, I can remember myself people complaining about 3:30 starts. And when the topic of night games would come up, people would Michigan the safety at night in Ann Arbor, that just the city is not prepared for it. The lighting at the golf course, there's no handrails in the stadium. We're talking about it dark. All those things have been. I don't know if they've all been answered. I think there are some lights. I parked at the golf course for a couple of years. And it seemed like there was some extra lighting that was put in there, but I don't think there's. Are there? I don't think there's any handrails or anything going up, but they have been able to. People have been able to do it, and you'll get just like you take Michigan football and the game day experience. I'm here to tell you that it looks like it's about the most perfect thing. A game day experience that you can have. Everything, it's what you like and what you put into it and everything else, and maybe how much money you have. But I don't even know. You can have a great time without spending a dime. But there's always going to people that go to the games that, there's something or other is going to rankle their feathers or something with, a night game. I don't like night games. Or the part about night games is that you go back to when Michigan didn't have them, and they'd play at noon, and you're like, oh, it's great and everything. And you go home, and then you turn on the TV, and you see these stadiums under the lights at the SEC. We're going to LSU, and you see it, and the crowd is just it's a whoa. Would it be like at Michigan if it was like that? It would be incredible, but. And for the most part, I think it has been. I think the big house looks good at night. There is a part, you get a little older, you see each section, get the lights flashing. You're like, okay, I mean, is this the greatest thing ever? Or am I just getting old? Or it really is. This is great. I don't know when it comes down to it. I think when you win, it ends up being everything kind of takes care of itself. When it comes to that, my I don't know if it's a fondest memory. It's not a fond memory. It's just maybe my first memory of, was it 2010 or 2011? Michigan played that first night game against Notre Dame, and I was driving in, and you got L Bell Field right up there where it's a T. I think that's Hill, and the natatorium and the old field house is there. And I was getting there kind of late. And I'm wondering, like, wow, what's this going to be? First night game. Ended up being a great game, of course, against Notre Dame. But, everybody's talking, the tailgate. People aren't going to be able to handle the tailgating. That's stop them right there. And there had to be a half dozen girls that were at the intersection right there when I stopped, when I was going over the game. And three of the girls just fell over, just completely, wasted into the street right in front of my car. And then all the other girls are laughing, picking them up. And I'm like, all right, tailgating, let's go. 4 hours before kickoff. And you're like, okay, woo, let's be safe out there. That's, and those girls, they had some wing people with them. Wingmen. Oh, that was good. Girls could have been by themselves. Wild. Want to see what that passing game looks like. We're going to get a little bit into that passing game in a second. I hate that it's coming on Apple TV. I don't want another subscription. Yeah, well, I get that part. Apple TV. Uh, but any of them. I mean, that's what are you gonna do? I get that part though. That's a little extra money. 8 o'clock. I'll be there at 8 o'clock for breakfast. Oh, we're talking about William's going to be there at 8 o'clock for breakfast, first in line to get set up at Pioneer. Let's go. 8 o'clock is going to be a long day for you, William. Woo! 8 o'clock. I'm wondering. I was thinking about this today. Somebody, you get older and, you're married or you're working or whatever it is, can you spend just the entire day? If I'm William, what am I doing? I'm getting up. Could I do this? I'm just saying, could I do it physically? Could I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning? Probably I could do that. And then be in the car, a little bit after 7, in line at 8 o'clock, eating, breakfast already in my car, to be first in line to get set up to tailgate for the rest of the day. What is my tailgate going to get going at 9? I've got nearly 10 hours then to tailgate. Go to the game and then get home. Ooh, it would be, I would need to do some practicing to get ready for that kind of day. Could I find myself at after the Texas-Ohio State game, if I was with William there and they had his setup, am I going to sit in the back seat for a half-hour nap or something to get fired up for the you got to make it to the whole thing. I don't want to be at Michigan, inside the stadium falling asleep or something. Ooh. Hoping that Underwood does not end up being Orgy and Milton 2.0. Yeah, well, I'm going to guarantee that he's not going to be Orgy. I think that, and this is a total slam on Orgy, sorry. I think that Underwood could play the game left-handed better than I would take Underwood throwing the ball left-handed. Come on. That's overboard. The Milton part, Milton looked like and threw like. Look, Joe Milton looked better and threw better than any quarterback in the history of the game. And you look at him, he is chiseled, and this looked perfect. And then when he threw the ball, throwing the ball is pretty important. Perfect. Or better than anybody ever. So all the other stuff, that goes into it. Yeah, there is part of that. Let's just I hadn't considered that it would go that badly. Rashad is talking about, with all due respect, he's going to need to see it on the field before he buys into everything he says when it comes to players. Yeah, I'm with you on that. If we just took everything, like Sharon Moore, everything that he said, he loves every single player on this team, and they're all going to be great. So you got to sift through some of that. I have the same thing with Underwood, but then you have to make your predictions. You have to make your projections, and then we would all like to wait, 4 or 5 games before we said, okay, this is what I think. Here's how it's going to play out. But we're not afforded that, so we do make our picks anyways. And for that, I would like to go to the part where we get to the playoffs. And if you're a fan, I said at the start, half of the fun is, dreaming of of a successful season, of beating Ohio State, of getting to the playoffs. Those are, if you say, what is the successful season this year? You have to answer that for yourself. Playoffs is a successful season. If Michigan would be able to get to the playoffs, they're going to get there if they get to double-digit wins. 10-2. Oh, Heather Dinich might be able to say, no, wait a second. With these, 10-2, they're going to be in the Big Ten. 9-3, I would think would just have them just on the outside looking in. Although you could make a case, and I don't have to be Heather Dinich to make the case, but it would look like something about, once Michigan loses, say they lose their first 3 road games, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and USC. They win all the rest, including beating Ohio State at the end. They really smack Ohio State, really thump them to win 5 in a row. And then you look back at those 3 losses, and they were by 5 total points. And the USC game was a very controversial call that everybody thinks Michigan got screwed. I think all those things, that the screw part doesn't play into, Dinich's computer rankings and everything else, but so they might. It's going to depend on a lot of other external things that go on and how it plays out, how many teams are there and all that. But, they wouldn't completely be ruled out of it. But I don't want to sit here before they kick off of the opener talk about, they still have a chance and, start doing Heather Dinich even before they kick the ball off and talk about they could still get in there at 9-3. I think it get to 10-2. You got to be able to do that. Here's the things that I believe with this team as we get ready to go in. I think that the defense will be better than last year. I think that they will be better than last year. It took a while to get acclimated to Wink's defense. And I know that they lost Graham and Grant, and I don't think they're going to be a top 5 rush defense, but I do think they're going to be better against the pass. I think it's going to be more of balance that matters on defense, but I don't think there's going to be as good against the run, but I think they'll be better against the pass. And they were 19th in the country in points allowed. I think they could be top 15. Obviously, they get the top 10. I would feel great about their chances of getting into the playoffs. But, they could get in that kind of thing of top 15. I know a lot of people say, this Michigan team is for sure a top 10 defense. Well, we're talking about top 10 defense in yards allowed. I always look at it with points per game allowed. So it's whatever you want to put that line at and how much that matters to you. But the things that we talk about heading into the season, if there is a number defensively that I'm going to look at for this team, it is going to be how they do in the plus minus with the turnovers. Last year, the Michigan defense was not great at fumble recoveries and interceptions. In fact, they had 18 of those total, which ranked them 58th in the country. I need more takeaways. I need more turnovers gained. If you can get that into the top 25, I'm going to feel like that you're going to have a top 15 defense, a top 25 defense in turnovers gained. To me, that's going to be this team not only knocking on the door, busting through that door and getting into the postseason. So I feel really good about the defense. I feel really good about the special teams. I mean, Dominic Zavada, is he going to go, what was he, 21 of 22, 23 of 24 on field goals? Made them all from 50. The only kick he missed was at Illinois. Made all the rest. Are we expecting him to be perfect this year? No, just expecting him to be great because he's shown that he's got a stick of dynamite in his right leg. I'm expecting to see that again. The way Michigan is recruited this year, when you have freshmen and sophomores, true freshmen, true sophomores that aren't in the too deep, where they show up on special teams, on kickoff coverage, on punt coverage, and those sort of things, on the other, the hidden yardage that you talk about. Michigan's got a lot of, I feel like great when you go through Chase Taylor, Wasu Boateng, Nate Marshall, those true freshmen. Those guys, I think they can make a name for themselves. And Michigan's got their ace in Joe Taylor, an ace because he's obviously played the most snaps on special teams ever at Michigan, or is set to do that. I mean, he's made a name for himself there. So I feel great about defense and special teams. Man, 2/3, I'm there. So everything then is going to be about the offense. If they can make how much strides, how much better they can be. I think all of those things are true. But I got 3 questions for the offense. I've got the receivers, I have the offensive line, and I have the quarterback. Now, if they can answer 2 of those 3 in good terms, I think that they will make the playoffs. I can't automatically, I forgot who said it, Rashad. He's got to wait to see it before he believes it. And there's a part of that I'm sitting here talking about. The receivers this year, Sharon Moore just on Monday said, Donovan McCulley, he's earned the number 1. He is the number 1. The players have talked about, oh yeah, he's a guy, he's the one, all of these, he is hip, all these different things with McCulley. And maybe he is going to be, but you know what? David McCulley caught 2 passes last year for like 20 yards. He hasn't really had an impactful game in over a year, 2 years. And is he just going to come out against Oklahoma? Maybe he is just going to be awesome. But there's a part of me, when you miss that much time and you don't do anything for 2 years, and okay, he's got the number 1 jersey on. Is he going to be out there and he's going to be, Braylon Edwards right out of the gate? I put a question mark on that, and he's the top receiver. Nobody's a bigger fan than Samaj Morgan than me, but all right. I think that he can show, so he's got to show, with a quarterback that he's going to be more like the stuff that he flashed when he was a freshman during the Natty season than he was last year, where it was disappointing, in my opinion. So receivers, Marlon Klein is said this here in camp. No one outside the football building has seen what he can do in the passing game. So can I automatically just say, Klein, Klein, just look out for him? You can say that. Say it. But the pass catchers, the pass receivers are a question mark. I say big question mark. They're one of the 3 question marks of the offense. The other question mark, there's 2 more, is the offensive line. Maybe Evan Link is going to be a stalwart at left tackle. Maybe he's going to be a dancing bear over there with sand in his pants and, being able to just keep would-be pass rushers off and keep his quarterback clean. Maybe he will be fabulous with the 12 starts under his belt that he got last year, 1 at left tackle, but 12 total starts. It's not too shabby. That's some experience. He's a question mark. Michigan at right guard has a question mark. Starting Norton, Brady Norton, and Nathan Afope, who we all thought was probably going to be the starter, gets beat out. And now you had Norton, who was playing tackle. I guess he was playing everything in the spring. You hear, I'm working over at left guard, right guard, left tackle, right. And then, I don't know, even in camp, I think he was working over at tackle until like 2 weeks ago. Now there's just, they like how he pass blocks. And so he's going to be the starter. Michigan better have a good offensive line. This is what they've built their reputation on. You can say going back however far you want to go back. But even if you just go back to 2021, it's the line. Sharon Moore, lineman. Sharon Moore. If you can't get the offensive line going, then you're going to be in big trouble. And this is the main thing for Michigan. So I feel like that in the second year. I already liked how he came out instead of saying it was just a slight, I don't want to say it's a sleight of hand, but just a slight bit of a difference. Last year he was over there. Who was it? Jadis and Crippen at center. He's like, oh, both of them are going to play. We're the competition's still ongoing. This is what he said on Monday. I was like, wow. And he said the same thing at quarterback. And you remember last year, if you watched this, I was just sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Name a starter. Well, he did. To his credit, I thought he was, he executed the Monday game week 1 press conference flawlessly. I mean, he just handled it. But look, he's over at right guard. I would say essentially is the same thing. He was like, but he said Norton's going to be the starter. That was the key. And then a Phobie is going to play. He didn't say, well, they're going to compete this week for no. How many ever starter reps you're going to have? You don't have 2, 3, 4 games to get going. Like the Natty season, for instance, you could do anything you want in those first 3 games. You could have played me at right guard and things would have been okay. You got to have this team being this offensive line ready to go in Norman, Oklahoma next week. I would say that all of those starters should be playing at least, I almost feel like 3/4, but definitely to the half. I don't want to see some point in the second quarter. Look, guy could get hurt or something, but I don't want to see Norton. I don't want to hear Todd Blackledge saying, we talked to Sharon and he said, these guys are so close, he's just going to be rotating them in. And here comes a Phobie with, 2 minutes into the second quarter. No, I don't want that. You got to give him at least a whole half to work with the starters, or what are we doing here? I don't know. Jim Scarcelli, we weren't arguing about it last night, but I was talking with him yesterday. And, here he's like, I feel like I'm different on that. Like, okay. And the guy played football. So what am I going to say? I don't like it. But let's let the 5 that are going to be down there at Norman, let's see them for at least the first half. But that's a question mark. Left tackle, right guard, the unit as a whole, the 5. The left side is completely new. Now, yeah, Link and El Hadi were playing on the right side last year. Now they move over to play the left side. Yeah, it'll be flawless. Crippen, it's been a hell of a journey for him. He thought he was starting for the Natty. Then I thought he was starting last year, and then he was, but now he is. He's the guy. Seemingly everybody just feels good about Sprague, so that's good. So the offensive line, question mark number 2. And then the third one is Underwood. And he's the key one that we're all looking at and wondering, are we going to be able to tell that he's going to be Superman week 1? No, I don't think so. And I'll go back. Anything, it's just if there's anything that he is not able to do, then you're not going to feel as good. He can be great. You got to, I think, temper your expectations. But if he throws a pick against New Mexico or something like that, now you're feeling like, oh, maybe what people say about true freshman quarterback is true. And what do people say about true freshman quarterbacks? It's not a gut feeling. It's watching them over the years. Arch Manning, would we rather be sitting here with Underwood on ice for 2 years and then in his 3rd year, he would be getting the start after he just, Arch Manning did get 2 starts, but, essentially now it's his team on Saturday and he's going to be playing. I tend to think that, the Mannings, that his uncles, they kind of, and his grandpa, Archie, they're going to know a thing or two about how to get a guy in the perfect spot to play football. This isn't it, but this is what it's going to be. And a lot of people say, well, he could be Trevor Lawrence in 2018. And I get that. Here's the difference from me. And this is why I think that with Underwood, expecting him to be the best quarterback in the country. There are some people that do that. The Michigan, just smashes everybody and he's awesome. There is a chance that he's a 1 in a million. So why not just lean into it if you're a fan? I get that. Trevor Lawrence didn't play till his 5th game, and he had an accomplished quarterback behind him. So there wasn't a pressure that he needed to be the guy right out of the gate. He had Kelly Bryant, he had a senior quarterback who had a lot of success before he took over for game 5. That's a long time. He did not have that pressure on him. That's a big deal. Also, Clemson had the number 1 defense in the country. Michigan's defense is good, so that makes you kind of feel good. Not number 1. Remember, Clemson went undefeated. Clemson also had a great offense. They had a great receiving core. T. Higgins, Ross, Renfro, ETN. They won the national championship. So, I don't know, comparing the one guy that came out, Underwood doesn't have 4 games. He's got to go now. He didn't, Sharon Moore said that he won the job on Monday, but what is he going to say? Well, what could he have said? Guys, we just didn't have anybody else. We brought in Michgian. He didn't play it down in spring, and then he wasn't able to throw the ball here in fall. So by default, Bryce is your number 1. He's not going to say that, but that's true. Underwood, they had to start him. He had no competition. This was it. I mean, he beat Jake Garcia out. Jaden Davis. He beat Jaden Davis. I'll give him that. Does that worry me that he's just been anointed without having to, quote unquote, win this job? I don't know. I guess that's going to be just how you look at it. It was probably a blessing in disguise that King got hurt in the spring because Underwood right away got all the reps. And, we've talked about since the spring that he was going to be the starter. There was no, what if Keene with all this experience? No. Keene, I think, has thrown the ball. I've thrown the ball as much as Michgian in the fall and in spring. But that, and at least is something. I don't even know if it gives you pause. It's just something there. He's just been, they had no other choice. He is the best guy for the job, but they didn't really have it. There was no competition. Very little resistance to him being the starter. You can just say it's fine. Having said all of that, the thing that makes me think that this still could be a successful season and that Michigan can get to the playoffs is that they did it in 2021 with Cade McNamara. And Cade McNamara, he was a useful quarterback, serviceable quarterback, did some nice things, hit some big passes, but he was not all world. Do I think that Underwood can give Michigan a McNamara like 2021 performance? I do. I do think that he can do that. So it may have just sounded like the last 10 minutes, I'm like, I'm out. I'm not out. I'm in. In fact, I think he can be better. I think it will be better than Cade McNamara. But you know what? Cade knew the offense, knew how to get him into the plays, understood where the personnel was going, knew how to make some changes at the line, knew how to handle that kind of stuff. You can wear those AV glasses and play a lot of computer games and play against the Michigan defense in practice and all those sort of things. But all of that goes out the window when you go down to Norman and their defensive end, is Mason, he's one of the top edges in the country. He's looking to take your head and smash it into the ground. So how quick the just turned 18-year-old is processing. Is he processing like, boop? Look at Anthony Richardson for the Colts, who got benched. When Ajabo came clean right there, every quarterback said, you've got I don't even know what it is, 1 second to say, where's my hot read? Boom, get it out of here. Or decide to move out. And Richardson was just sat there and got smashed. whatever, broke his thumb, strained his finger, whatever it was. How quickly you're processing things, we don't know that about Underwood. And those guys can say they put a lot of heat on him. It's the Michigan defense, which is true, but Underwood was wearing an orange jersey. Derek Moore wasn't coming in, slapping at the ball, slapping at his head, which would be 15 yards. Good thing you didn't do that. Or, looking to plant him in the ground like a tulip. We don't know how quickly those processing things. Some of the stuff in the spring where you watched him throw before the spring game went on, there was a lot of quick passes. And it made me think like, this is a guy that's going to get the ball and it's coming out fast. That maybe he is a very quick processor. That maybe he's just going to be able to fire the ball all over the field, which he did in the spring game. Not with a lot of great success. They had some drops. I was thinking about it today. I mentioned Joe Taylor, the ace on special teams. They were down there at like the 5-yard line, and Underwood got the ball, headed out like in an instant, knew right where he was going. And it was just Taylor just running a little in route in the end zone. And the DB was able to, if that's Marlon Klein, who's Joe Taylor's like 5'9", 6'5" Marlon Klein, who weighs 50 more pounds, using his frame, that's a touchdown. That's taking candy from a baby. All right, so they can do it. They can make the playoffs this year, but they've got to answer out of the 3 big question marks. They got to come up with 2 pretty good answers, and that's at the pass catchers, wide receivers, the offensive line, and then quarterback. They get 2 out of those 3 answered, then you're in business. We are all in business. Rashad believes in the OC. Yeah, to me, I didn't put the OC on there. I think that if the OC gets the blocking and the OC gets the pass catching, then the OC is going to look pretty good. Only Michigan folks complain about night games. I don't know how many people some people complain about them. But, here's the thing. People complain about everything. You can find someone, and I tried to emphasize that. I don't know if I nailed that home or hammered it home. Hammer. The Michigan game day experience is the greatest thing that you could have anywhere. Everybody looks at it. It's like, wow, look at how Michigan does things. And it's in the 99 percentile of doing things great for all the things that you would want. But so, yeah, you're going to find, even with that, let's complain about it. Hadley is talking about Sharon keeping his promise and let Bryce play the whole game Saturday. Who did he make that promise to, Hadley? You'd have to tell me. That doesn't seem like something a coach would say. I would think that a coach would say he was asked about he said, we'll see, when he was asked about, I don't know if it was specifically about getting Jaden Davis in there, but you can't just say, oh yeah, we'll get Jaden Davis in there after the 3rd quarter. What if they come out and it's a 14-6 game like Michigan had in their national championship season in game 2 against Bowling Green? Wasn't it like 14-6 at the half? It's not like you can be like, oh, get all these backups ready. Bowling Green's probably better than, New Mexico, but there's no promise. Whoever he promised that to, I think that it's been misinterpreted. I don't want to say that Sharon Moore, it would be stupid to play Bryce the whole game, but let's say Michigan gets up. It's 42-7 after the 3rd quarter. And maybe you want to take the first series of the 4th quarter because you want Bryce to have that, he's going to be in a 4-quarter game the following week. So maybe you want to get him a possession, maybe even 2. A lot of times coaches do that. The fans always want the backup, especially in a blowout, in for experience. They don't want their guy to get hurt. Fans and coaches rarely see eye to eye when it comes down to when to get the backups up and everything that goes into that. The players want the stats. The players, the coaches want to know, make sure that they're getting as much experience as they can to get into uh, knowing that the following week, it's not like you can ramp him up. He's going to have to play 4 quarters next week. So, you might think, hell, it's 50-0 at the half. Let's just put a hat on him. No, you need to get him that experience at least into the third quarter. Yeah, it's a fine line. People are going to be complaining any way it goes. Again, 50-0 at the half. People are so worried about somebody getting hurt. What if I told you that, when it comes down to the stats, and I know, no, it's Michigan. Nobody cares about that. Guys like playing. So give me a little bit more context, Hadley, on that promise. Oh, it's the one and only. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one of the greatest of all time. It's Mr. MP. What's up, MP? I'll give you a little inside story on MP. There was one time Michigan was playing on a Friday night. I think the Twins were in the playoffs. Michigan was playing the Gophers on the road. John Navarre was the quarterback. I don't know why I would not have been out at a restaurant or bar and have watched that game on a Friday. But what happened is something that I would never advocate anybody ever to do, and that was to tell the bar we're all going back to the radio station and we'll just watch the game in the kitchen. Not a great idea, but that's what we did. Just opened it up. Matt was part of that. I've been doing this show for damn near 4 years, Matt. Where you been? 20 years ago, I knew where he was. RW says the atmosphere at the big house is on another level at night. Yeah, it is. It is. That second night game, the Devin Gardner game. I think last week I mentioned that. I'll say the best seats that I've ever had. You walk out, instead of having to go down or up, I was right there. That's nice. And the weather was perfect, going to be perfect. It looks like what I've seen on Saturday night. Perfect weather. And you can't do it. The lights are great. And then the crowd, I don't know how many of the crowd, if it's the night or if it's what they've had to drink, probably a lot of both. But it's up there. Yeah. Peacock at NBC. Yeah, I lose the Peacock when I know it's on NBC. Who cares if it's on Peacock, if it's on NBC? If it's not on NBC, then yeah. I didn't put the some people will call it the cock up there. Well, I'm making myself laugh, I guess. CG wants to see Michigan punish New Mexico. So that's a nice football term. I would like to see the Michigan defense punish New Mexico ball carriers. No, I don't know. I don't know who was talking about Apple earlier. If there was a game scheduled to be on Apple, I don't know about that. People are talking. Now we're talking about app. I'm not familiar with that. I remember when I went to a game at 2:23, 2 p.m., 23. At 2 p.m. in 23, the Natty season, 2 p.m. RW answering Hadley, who's talking about some kind of promise that he thinks that Sharon made. Urabi does not have the luxury of showing up in the morning for a night game. Yeah, that's it. I can tell you, it's great when your entire world revolves around Michigan football. If I told my wife it was Friday and I said, I'm getting up at 6 in the morning, going to the game. I'll see it probably, I don't know, after midnight. Like, She's not going for that. I don't know. She'd be like, wait a second. Maybe a once in a while. But I can tell you this, and this is the fun part of being young, as we all know. I used to take RVs on the road to Michigan games. And I would leave Friday morning. And so I'm pulling up to Happy Valley Friday afternoon, heading to the bar, usually to do a broadcast there. But then, staying at that restaurant for a few hours after the broadcast. And then getting up in the morning where you park these the whole RV subculture for tailgating is wild. Some people, you've got an RV, and so you get to know the other people that are traveling in RVs. These RV people, they can't do it in game day. You can't park like this. You pretty much have to, park like cars. But, hundreds of RVs is a nice setup. But the night before, these RV people will find places and they park, I don't know, like in an octagon. There might be 6, maybe 8 RVs. And so you then you got this huge infield circle where everybody whoops it up, for the entire night and early in the morning. And it's, I was at some Wisconsin RV tailgates like that. Ohio State. I think if I wanted to out nowhere land in Iowa. But there was one. What was the story that I was going to tell about the RV? It'll come to me. William says it goes by fast. This is William, who earlier talked about getting to Pioneer at 8 o'clock in the morning. 45 minutes setup, 45 minutes to tear down. Big, massive setup, food, TVs, great time. Great time bags, great time had. I don't know. I'm not going to read too much into that. Yeah, it could be sounds like a great time. It really does. Oh, I remember what I was going to say about the art. You can have such a great time tailgating. The game that Michigan lost, unfortunately, to Michigan State, the one where they got an extra down or something, smoker to duck it, that particular one. We were out there at 6 o'clock, and I think that was a 3:30 start. Out there at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And my friend had, his brothers were 10 years younger, and they brought all of these friends of theirs that were mostly girls to our RV spot. And for 6 hours, this is the most incredible tailgate that you could possibly have. It was so incredible that a friend of mine, who I would consider a gigantic Michigan fan, gave his tickets away and decided to stay at the tailgate. Now that's, I don't know what he ended up doing, but whatever. U of M says he would take a blindfolded Underwood over Orgy. So far, we're taking a blindfolded, left-handed Bryce Underwood to perform better than Alex Orgy. A left-handed blindfolded, standing on one foot, throwing the ball backwards. Now, come on. First play, I want to see a play action and go deep to number 1, set the tone that this isn't Kirk Campbell's scheme anymore. Well, Rashad, you say that, and what I would say to you is that you don't know Michigan football. But then I would go back to the great Jerry D'Ario, who, before the spring game, the former Michigan offensive lineman said, I think they're going to throw a bomb on the first play to set the tone for the Bryce Underwood era. And I said, Jerry, you're an offensive lineman and everything. And I appreciate, you going out on a limb with this hot take, but this is Michigan. They're going to run a counter tray up the middle like they have for the last 50 years. And then Jerry was right. They tried to throw a bomb. Rashawn Benny got a virtual sack, but they did. So I would not say that is out of the realm of possibility. In fact, I think that's I think that it is a little hot, but I think you can see it. By the way, God bless Jerry. He is, we just have prayers in for him and really hoping that he's going to be okay. Went through his procedure. He told me to tell everyone that. And we're crossing our fingers and doing everything that we possibly can for JD. Let's go, Andres. More Andres. Or first time for Andres, who's planting a flag. Michigan Go Blue 1, 2, 3, 4 is wanting Marsh to start over Samaj. Your thoughts? Absolutely not. Now look, I mean, I'm not going to spend 5 minutes. I've spent 5 hours probably over the last year talking about Samaj Morgan. Samaj Morgan is a hell of a player. Samaj Morgan is a dynamic receiver. Samaj Morgan is a dynamic run after the catch player. Samaj Morgan could be an all Big Ten type weapon. He flashed. That's what I saw from him as a freshman during the national championship season. Throw him the ball, he can make plays. Sit down on a route, catch the ball, turn up, get a punt return, take it almost to the house in a championship game. Marsh is a true freshman, has shown some smooth ability to run routes. Got a nice frame on him, but absolutely not. But look, I want to shut out. I like shutout talk. Go Blue 1, 2, 3, 4 coming in with what else do we have here? Let's just read it. He says, considering not watching College Game Day, ESPN hates Michigan. Same thing every year, downplaying us, finding anything negative to say, lack of credit. Yeah, I'll have to take your word for that. I'm not a huge pregame College Game Day. Sometimes if it's on and I'm home, which is not very frequent, I'll catch it. Doesn't Michigan have Desmond Howard on there to, pump up the Wolverines? Is it Desmond against everyone else? I don't know. I do know, and that leads us into a perfect thing, and that's with Portnoy, Dave Portnoy against Big Ten Noon and against Ohio State. If you've missed this story, the quick recap is the word came out that Ohio State was banning Dave Portnoy from the stadium, the Michigan man, Dave Portnoy. And then Ohio State came out and said, no, that's not the way that it actually went down. They had talked to Fox, Ohio State did, and Fox, Big Noon Kickoff, didn't want Portnoy at any of the sites this year. He was going to be off-site. Now, Portnoy came back and said, that's actually not how it went down. He's trying to be a good he stands to gain a ton by trying to, be in good with Big Noon that just gave him an opportunity to put all of his shows on FS1 and him be a part of that. I don't know. It sounds like a millions of dollar deal or whatever else, but he also has been able to rise to the top content creator in sports, by being brash and kind of telling it like it is. And so he tried to do a little bit of that. And the best thing how did he say it? They're already scared, from, I forget. A lot of soft, and a lot of scared, and a lot of Dave being a baby and all that. But what you get, he's name calling. There's a lot of people that don't like Portnoy He's rich, he's obnoxious, and he's a Michigan fan. Now, hey, if you're a Michigan fan, you say, I overlook those other two, but you understand why a lot of people that would be not Michigan fans wouldn't like Dave Portnoy. So that would be the Michigan fan one. He is obnoxious, and he is rich. Those things can all be a turnoff for folks. But remember, Big Noon Kickoff put him in there because they want 18 to 34-year-olds who just worship this guy, think he's the greatest thing of all time. And this plays right into them. TikTok is, flowing with let's get after Ohio State and Big New. Portnoy's the king, so it's worked out great. I think it's actually worked this whole thing. I see some people, mostly people that are over 34, like, oh, they're probably sorry that they gave. No, this is what they expected. They expected Dave Portnoy to fan the flames on an inferno constantly. Definitely with Ohio State. Do you think that they talked to him about, let's see if you can wear a tie? I don't know. I'd have to look. How does McAfee, I don't think he's wearing his tank top game day, but once in a while, I don't know. I'd have to see. But I'm not expecting Portnoy to, put on some suit and tie like the rest of the guys there. You get Portnoy, you get obnoxious Dave there. But from a Michigan standpoint, it does. This just anything. I think these execs, they're like, we're going to tap into the hatred / passion. It's kind of handed off. Half the people are passionate, half are, kind of a-holes on both sides. But you want to tap into that, they're tapping into it. They're tapping into Michigan, Ohio State. Anything about it. And, people are talking more about this than they are about the game on Saturday and then Ohio State being the national champs. What a bunch of losers, but that, if the shoe was on the other foot, Michigan be banning some broadcaster, Urban Meyer, you can't come into the big house. It's having its desired effect, I think. I'm talking about it too. So that's today's game. Let's see, or today's show, I should say. Let's see if Hadley answered his question. Hadley said, I thought he said that at his presser Monday. I think he wanted to see just how long he could go regardless of the score. I was at that press conference on Monday, Hadley, and he didn't say anything about that Bryce Underwood was going to play the whole game. He was asked about, getting backups in. And like I said, no coach can be like, oh, yeah, we're hoping to be up 45-0 after 3 quarters and we can empty the benches. That's what they hope. But you can't say that. And again, it's usually fans against the coaches. Fans they don't want their quarterback getting hurt. Understandable. They want to see the backups. Also understandable. Coaches want to get a couple more series. And it's not really about the score at that point when you're up. It's more about just getting more reps into the fourth quarter. But we all think it's almost as a rule, media and fans are almost always wanting the backup quarterback in there quicker than they end up doing it. Maybe it'll match up. Michigan Manifesto says, even when complimenting us, they make some slick pocket watching comment about NIL. Yeah, hey, look. I don't know if this is true or not, Michigan Manifesto, but so for me, I would say that Michigan has been the most popular team. They have been able to get they are the most popular team. They won on the field, everything with Harbaugh over the last 10 years. Nobody has given the media and the fans across the country more content than Michigan. I don't even think that's an argument. So with so many, when you're that popular, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that are coming after you for every little thing. And then college football fans, anything that is in the smallest thing that you could say, people are going to think that they hate you or they've turned on. Over the years, if I took what Michigan fans had to say about different media, they hate the free press. They hate, ESPN. They hate, they hate everybody. You wonder, but I get it. There's enough people that hate the game day thing that I think there might be something to it, right? So, where's Desmond? How come he isn't standing up, being more of a, why doesn't Desmond bring the? I thought Desmond has his pom poms in his hand. Did they cut off his mic? Does he tell everyone, here's the championship ring? Does Desmond need to do more in that regard? I don't know. I don't know enough. OT says Dave sucks. He has bad takes. His pizza reviews are awful. And his style is even worse. One thing, when you're really popular, you're going to have half the people that hate you and half that love you. He has found, I think, maybe a little bit more than that. Even with Michigan fans, I think half hate him. So, he's not going to be for everyone there. The funny part for me on that is that when it comes to, it's great that he went to Michigan and everything else, and he's a big fan. And I've always just hoped that he seems like he could screw up, that I don't know, that he would do something where he could, do something unlawful, and then it would make Michigan look bad. So I root for him that he doesn't screw up that way. That's pretty much about it when it comes down to Dave for me. And when it comes down to his sports stuff, obnoxious sports guy, sometimes he puts his crown on. Okay, I get why that's funny. He's a top content creator. That's, you're trying to get some people to watch your content. He's been able to master it. So all of that. Funny thing about the pizza thing is, if there was two things, you'd say, well, do you like anything that he does? And I would say, yeah, I like two things a lot. I like any of his dog videos, and I like his pizza reviews. Although, OT, your point on the pizza, when he talks about the pizza reviews, he doesn't put pepperoni on the pizza, which drastically changes the taste of a slice of pizza. Who's eating just cheese pizza? I almost want to say you should just throw everything out that he says about that, about the pizza. But I like just watching him stand out there with a pizza box and eat it, even though I think he's stupid that he doesn't put pepperoni on it. So that's it. And OT, maybe, if you're 25 years old and that's how you feel about him, it would be a surprise, because most people your age just can't get enough of him. I mean, they just think he's the king of media, and that's it. The further away you are from 25 and you're saying something about Portnoy, people are like, well, who cares? You're 40 years old. I know. It goes down that way. Okay, well, that's the show. And Friday we'll be here, a football Friday. We'll have already watched a couple games, and we will be getting ready on the eve of the opener. We'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. Hey, do yourself a favor. Now is the time to join up. I was just looking at some of our On3 higher ups, and they were saying the first week of the season is the best for new subscribers. He was saying, get on board, tell everyone. And I thought, that makes sense. You're starting out a voyage of the 25 season, and you want to know everything that's going on inside, stories, depth chart. I just saw right before I came on, Josh Henschke, the publisher of the Maize and Blue Review, was putting up a story on the right guard position and what has changed here midweek as we head out to the opener. That's sitting right there. As a bonus, you get your membership and you get a complimentary year of The Athletic. It's very easy. Go to on3.com to join up with the Maize and Blue Review. And I'll tell you, when you go to on3.com, it gives you all of the different sites of all the teams in the country. And when you get Michigan, you see it. It says Maize and Blue Review. Click it, and you're in. You get that $1 for the first week, and then you're off and running. I'd love to see you over there. You know, I say that all the time, but it's true. I enjoy when I do this podcast and I see somebody like Matt or OT who doesn't show up all the time, and then there he is, puts a smile on my face. When I see those of you that are on here then show up over on the Maize and Blue Review, I almost feel like, you know, my day is complete. It's been awesome. That's it. Take care. Thanks for watching. We'll see you over on the Den, the Maize and Blue Review. Till then, bye.